All right, I hope you had a little time to maybe do your homework, and I know logic is wild and different. Are there any questions we need to address about our first section? In that section, we talked about the connectives. There are 5 of them. There's the negation, the conjunction, the disjunction, the conditional, and the biconditional. And we talked about those and basically just creating logic statements out of grammatical statements. Okay, and that was the big thing right there. So anything that we need to go over in a little more detail, any questions that came up? Remember, the best thing to do when you do have a question, the day that one of those questions happens, is take a picture with your phone or screenshot with your computer, however you do that on your computer, send it to me or bring it to class. That would be the easiest thing, and that way we can get anything talked about that we need to. So today what we're going to do then, if there's no questions, is we are going to dive into what it looks like, what the this is the, when you're in elementary school, you learned your addition tables and your multiplication tables. This is the equivalent for logic. Okay, and we're going to do this for each of the 5 connectives. In fact, today we're going to do the first 3. I'm not rushing. If there's time, we'll get into the other 2. That's a different section. So we're going to do 3.2 definitely today. And if there's time, we might start a little bit of 3.3. I don't know. So what we're going to do here today in section 3.2 is we're going to talk about this thing called truth tables. And we're going to do this for the negation, the conjunction, and the disjunction. So I'll just let you know, these 5 basic truth table facts that we are going to have in the next day or day and a half, depending on how quick we go. This is the stuff right here. If you can remember and see how these truth values connect with each other, then you can do anything I can ask you to do. It's all based on this right here. So I want to make sure that you have complete understanding. We're going to practice it a bunch because this is the key skill to being able to determine if an argument is valid or invalid, to be able to do other things with logic. So the first thing we're going to have is the negation. Remember, the negation is, the symbol for it is the squiggly, the tilde. And remind me, because we've already talked about this, what I write on the board here should not be any sort of mystery for the negation. What does the negation do to the truth value of a statement? Changes it. Exactly right. So here's truth table. The negation has the most basic truth table. The negation is probably the simplest. Remember, simple isn't always easy. It's the simplest of the 5. So here's how we form a truth table. This represents my statement P. And remember, statement P can have one of 2 things. It's a simple statement. It can either be a true statement or it can be a false statement. There's no other option. Statement P is either true or it's false. What I'm going to do in the second column then is I'm going to say, okay, well, if I start with statement P, what happens when I construct the negation? So squiggly P. Remember, the squiggly in front of the statement means now I'm negating it. I'm making it the opposite. And I know this is like Monday, right? I know it's Tuesday, but we have the long weekend. It's like Monday, so our brains are a little slow getting started. So help me out. So if statement P starts off as true, what is the negation going to be? It'll be false. And then if statement P starts out as false, what's the negation going to be? True. So if you're doing the 3x5 card thing that I recommended to a couple of you, like for definitions and things, I would definitely put this on a 3x5 card, just see if you can remember it. Okay, so that's the first. The negation is not super interesting because it only applies to one simple statement. So we're going to go on to the next one. The next one we're going to talk about is the conjunction. Okay, I'm just quizzing you a little bit. Does anyone remember I wrote on the board 3 words, but there was 1 word that represents the conjunction most of the time. And, yes. So we've got the caret is the symbol for it, and the word and is the most commonly used word for the conjunction. I did mention sometimes in your book's problems, you'll see but and however are also used to denote the conjunction. Now, the thing about the conjunction and also the disjunction when we get there is they represent two simple statements. So our truth table is going to be a little bit different. I need to have a statement P and I need to have a statement Q. Now, if statement P and statement Q can each be true or false, then I've got several combinations that I can have here. And most of the time when you're writing your answers in the computer, now when you're on the test and you're writing these things out, I don't care what order, okay? But this is kind of the traditional order that you're going to see most of the time. Okay, so the first option is both statements could be true. The second option is the first one can be true, the second one can be false. The third option is the first one could be false, the second one could be true. And then the last possibility is both can be false. So that is all four possible things that could happen with your statements if you have two simple statements. You might be thinking, hey, Kirkster, what happens if we have three simple statements? Well, we'll talk about that at the end of this section. Okay, so that let's get everything knotted together here with two simple statements. So now I'm going to do the and statement. So let's think about this. What happens with my truth values when I connect things with the conjunction with the and? So let's pretend you go to McDonald's. I don't know if you like McDonald's or don't, doesn't matter for our example. Okay, we're going to McDonald's and you go up and you say, I want a cheeseburger and a small fry. Okay? So you want a cheeseburger and a small fry. That's our order. So the person behind the counter, they come back with a cheeseburger. That's true. And a small fry. That's true. Did you get what you ordered? Yes. True. Person behind the counter comes back. They give you a cheeseburger and then they give you apple slices. Maybe a healthier option, but is that what you ordered? No, it is not. False. They come back with chicken McNuggets and a small fry. Did you get what you ordered? And then finally, they come back with the chicken McNuggets and the apple slices. Did you get what you ordered? That's how our conjunction works. Okay. So notice, because we're trying to think big picture, what's the pattern here? What is the only time the conjunction is true? When both statements are true, right? When you've got both things that you want. The and statement is only true when both things are true. If you have any false in there, it's false when you've got an and statement. So I'm going to put the three basic truth tables on the board, and then if there's no questions, then we're just going to do a bunch of examples of linking things together in different patterns. So the third and final for this section is the disjunction. The disjunction is represented by the upside down caret, or it looks like a V. Does anyone remember the word that is used almost all the time for the disjunction? Or, yes. Or. So again, I've got two simple statements. A disjunction means two things to be glued together. So I'm going to write down my four options for what can happen. Both statements could be true. The first one could be true. The second one false, false, and then true. And then finally false and false. Those are my four options. And now we're going to talk about the disjunction, the or statement. Okay, so this time you're in the market for a new car. You go to the car dealership and you have kind of a weird request. You say to the car salesperson, I want a Toyota Camry or a purple car. Okay, so those are the two things that are most important to you for whatever reason. I don't know why you're ordering a purple car, but that's okay. So you got a Toyota Camry or a purple car. So the salesperson goes into the back and they drive back out and they've got a Toyota Camry and it's purple. Did you get what you requested? So you've told the salesperson you want a Toyota Camry or you want a purple car. So they come back with a Toyota Camry that is green. Did you get what you wanted? Okay, let me recruit your request. You wanted a Toyota Camry or a purple car. Those were your two important things, okay? Because I'm just trying to make a distinct example here. So you got a Toyota Camry that's green. Did you get what you ordered? Yes, you got the Camry part of it. And remember, you said or. You said I either want a Toyota Camry or purple car. So salesperson comes back. They've got a minivan that's purple. Did you get what you ordered? Yes. Because why did you get what you ordered? Because it's purple. You said either or. I said I want a Camry or I want a purple car. Okay, so I got the purple minivan that occupies the purple part of this. Then the final, they come back with a minivan that is green. Did you get what you ordered? No, neither of the two important things to you were satisfied, so false. So with the conjunction, we saw that the conjunction had to be true when both were true. It was an and statement, so both things had to happen. When is the disjunction true? Either one of them is true, yeah. For the disjunction, only one has to be true for the whole statement linked together to be true. Okay, so these are the three basic truth table facts that we've got on the board. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to do some practicing to get together this. So make sure you have this to reference. So here's my example. We'll do a bunch of these. What we're going to do is we're going to do a truth table for this. And we're going to construct a truth table for P conjunction squiggly Q. So notice we've got a couple things combined here when we go to do this truth table. So I'm going to start. I've got two simple statements. I've got P and I've got Q. So anytime you see two simple statements, you're going to begin the same way, just like we did with the conjunction and the disjunction, the four different combinations. So either they both can be true, first true, second false, first false, second true, false, false. That's always the start when you've got your two simple statements. You're never going to start any different. And now we're just going to work our way to the end of this. Before I do the conjunction, before I do the and statement, what do I need to do first? What do I need to do a column for? The squiggly, yes, the squiggly one. The squiggly one is the negation. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is before I can do the whole problem, I need a squiggly. So I'm going to do a squiggly Q column right here. And you can look at your notes if you need to, but what does the squiggly do? What does the negation do? Just changes it. Whatever the value is, make it the opposite. So I'm going down the Q column right here, and I'm just going to make everything the opposite. So instead of true, false, the squiggly Q column is going to be false, true. Yes, exactly. I don't have anything else I need. I don't have any parentheses. I don't have any other squigglies. So now I'm ready. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to join the P column and the squiggly Q column. Now, I find it helpful because I am sometimes forgetful. I like to just put a little asterisk over the columns that I'm working with so I don't accidentally do the wrong ones. And so remind me, I'm standing in front of it. When is the conjunction true? When what? When both are true, that is the only time. Remember the and statement, you need both parts fulfilled. Okay, so here we go. True and false in the first line. What's that going to be? That's false, okay, because they're not Remember, the conjunction is true only when both are true. How about true and true? The second line, what's that going to be? That's good, true. The third one, false and false, what's that going to be? And then finally, false and true. That is exactly. So what we've just done is we've taken the basic values. This is like your times tables, and now we're applying it to a more involved problem. Okay, so I want you to do the same thing. Here's yours. I want you to construct a truth table. For this statement right here, squiggly P, disjunction Q. Same sort of thing we just did. Now you get to run through it. Here's my truth table, the beginnings of it. Here's my statement P, my statement Q. These are the four possible combinations of trues and falses. Like I said, this is always the way we start. As I want this to be my destination, before I can get to this destination, what do I need to do a column for in my truth table? The squiggly P. Yes, I need that component. So I'm going to do a squiggly P column. So I'm just going to go down the P column and I'm going to change the truth values. So here's the P column. Instead of true, you're going to make that false. Then you're going to make it false again, true, and true again. So far, so good. Anybody got a question, comment, or concern? If you can do this, then you are well on your way, okay? In fact, all that is required is I'll tell you the other two truth table facts for the conditional and the biconditional. It works the exact same way, okay? So there's nothing else that I can do. Now I'm going to connect these two things together with the disjunction with an or statement. And so remind me, when is the disjunction true? One of the two. Okay, so here's my Q column, here's my P column. So I'm going to, or excuse me, my squiggly P column, I'm going to connect them together. If either one of the statements is true, that means the whole thing joined together has to be true. So here we go. I've got true or false. That is true. I've got false or false. That's bad. False. True or true? False or true? Anybody have a question, comment, or concern? Got something different? Now, if you have your four combinations here in a different order than I do, then you will have a different order on the end. So that's why try your best to do it in the same order I am. That way your last column looks the same and you're not, we're not confused. Yes?
How do you figure out which ones you need to combine?
Just up here. Here's my squiggly P. Here's my Q. Those are the two things that I'm locking together with the disjunction right there. Next one. I got one more. And then there's not a whole lot you can do with two statements. It's not as fun as you might think. So we're going to do this, and then we've got another skill, and then we're going to practice doing this with three statements, and then we'll see what time it is, and we'll probably begin section 3.3. Okay, so I want you to construct a truth table for this. This is the most difficult statement with two simple statements that I can write for you at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a squiggly and then some parentheses. And then let's do squiggly P and squiggly Q. Lots of squigglies because they're fun to draw. Before you get started, I'm going to give you a little hint. It's an arithmetic hint. In arithmetic, when you have parentheses, where do you start working? Inside the parentheses. So here's my tip for you. Forget the parentheses for the moment and do the truth table for what's inside. And then your very last step, the last column, is going to be to then take that statement and apply the squiggly to the whole thing. Okay? So if you don't understand what I just said, okay, that's why we do these examples in class. If you understood nothing else, then do the truth table for this right here, the squiggly P and squiggly Q. Yes?
We have to do P and Q and squiggly P and squiggly Q and squiggly Q.
You need to start, this is a great question. You need to start by defining what the simple statement's truth value is. Okay, you can't just start with the squiggly statements. Thanks for asking that. Great. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to start inside those parentheses. We're then going to work our way out. So inside the parentheses, before I worry about the parentheses at all, what do I need a column for? I need one for the squiggly P. And then I'm going to need one for the squiggly Q. We'll stop there. We'll come back. I don't want to get too far ahead. So the squigglies, these are nice and easy. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to change my values. So the column P becomes squiggly P. It becomes false, false, true, true. And the squiggly Q, bless you, I was trying to say squiggly Q and bless you at the same time. So I said squiggly Q. I don't know how that works. So bless you. And then now squiggly Q, we're going to have false, true, false, and then true. Everybody with me so far? You got the negation down pat. Now I'm going to combine these two columns. I'm going to asterisk them. I'm going to combine these two columns together with my and. And statement is true when both are true. Yes, thank you. So false and false, that's false. False and true. False, true and false. False and then true and true. And then last but not least, the very final thing that I'm going to do. So if you got to this point, you've done great. So then the final thing was, what do these parentheses and this negation out here do? Well, I'm going to do, now I'm just going to take this column that we just got and I am changing the values. So instead of false, we've got true. Instead of false, we've got true. False, we've got true. true, we've got false. And we are done. That's the most complicated that a two-statement truth table can get for you with those parentheses. There's not a whole lot more that we can do. And that's why after talking about one more little skill, it's kind of incorporates what we were talking about last time in class. Once we do that, then that's why we're going to go into what to do if I add a third simple statement in there. Because if you actually used logic, so one of the areas, if you have any inkling of wanting to go into any sort of law, you know, like criminal justice, anything like that, you're going to see some logic there, and then statements get bigger because you're actually trying to communicate things. So we are just doing a very quick flyover to give you the basics, so that someday, if you come into a place where you might apply these things, then you already have that foundation. Okay, so we're going to work up the 3 simple statements, but then it's all the same stuff if there's even more. So the next thing that I just want to remind us of, we're going to incorporate what we talked about last time, is this. And you're going to do this problem, but we're going to do it in phases. Okay, so the phases go like this. What we're going to do is we're going to start with a sentence, and we're going to first write the sentence in symbolic form, and then second, and we'll whip through this part, is we're going to do the truth table for it. So for instance, here is my sentence, and I'm just going to copy one that's in the book. So apples are not a good source of fiber, and oranges So it says apples are not a good source of fiber and oranges are a source of vitamin C. I'll give you a moment to catch up and write that down, because ultimately what we're doing here is not super complicated, but I just don't want to get ahead of you. Now, if you remember when we were together last week on Thursday, we did a whole bunch of things where I had identified for you. I gave you what statement P was and what statement Q. We talked about a house for sale, and we got sick of the garage part of it. So when you encounter something like this, and what we're building up to is when you encounter an argument, okay, what we need to do first so that we can work on it logically is we want to write this symbolically. So the first thing you do when you're asked to do this is you have to define the simple statements. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we have to define the simple statements. And the thing to always remember when you're defining your simple statements, and I'm going to make this note, anytime you define a simple statement, you always define them in the positive. So if there's any negations in the statements as they are, you leave them out when you define the simple statements. Now, I know we haven't done this before, okay? So what I'm going to do is what we're going to do is you're going to for me define what simple statement P and simple statement Q. You're going to make your hypothesis. I'm going to give you 35 seconds to write down what you would suggest simple statement P and simple statement Q are. And remember, if you get it wrong, it's okay. You're learning. Okay, if you missed this part, remember, it's 100% okay. Just make a note to yourself if you did. What did you suggest for simple statement P? So you left the word not out, which was great, because we always define our simple statements positive. Okay, so if you missed that, that's okay. I understand, it's a little detail. That's why I picked this example. So statement P is apples are a good source of fiber. I think I went off the screen, but if anyone's watching, that's fiber. Okay, so apples are a good source of fiber. What is simple statement Q going to be? Sure. So up front, you have to define what your simple statements are. Okay, that's important. Okay, so next thing, step 2, this is what we did in class, okay, on Thursday. In class on Thursday, I gave you the simple statements, and then we wrote sentences in symbolic form. So the next thing you're going to do, step 2, is now I want you to take this original sentence that you were given, along with these simple statements, write it in symbolic form, like we did in class Thursday. So what is this? And then you've got your connective, and then what is this? Written symbolically. Apples are not a good source of fiber. What is that written symbolically? Squiggly P. So we leave the not out when we define the statement because we have the squiggly. We add it back in right here. Squiggly P. And then the word and, that is represented by a caret or a triangle without the bottom, or an upside down V. And then oranges are a good source of vitamin C. That is that part right there. That's just what we did in class on Thursday. So maybe it's coming back to you. Then the third thing you'll do is the truth table. Now we've already done, I believe, a truth table for this. So I'm just going to let you refer to your notes because like I said, truth tables for 2 statements, there's not a whole lot of options. I just wanted to go through the process though of defining our simple statements so that I could write this symbolically. We still good? You're with me still? All right, well, here's my next example. And then I've got 1 or maybe 2 like this for you, and then we'll be just about done with this section. So we're going to do a truth table. For this statement. And the statement goes like this. I've got P and Q in parentheses, and then or are outside the parentheses. So 3 statements. I'm adding on another statement because the more the merrier. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is I got to set up my truth table. And this time, though, instead of 2 simple statements, I have 3, so that makes my table a little bigger. Okay, now, I know that I don't expect you to memorize this. I'm going to give you a little algorithm that hopefully will help you write down all the different combinations. So now I've got a simple statement P, I've got a simple statement Q, and a simple statement R. When we had 2 simple statements, there became 4 combinations of trues and falses that I can combine together. Now when I have 3, I double that. Okay, it's going to become 8. If we did have 4 simple statements, you would double it again. It becomes 16. So it gradually becomes more and more complicated to do these things. But 3 is as far as we go in this class. I think there is 1 bonus problem in the homework somewhere that has 4 just to see, but it's not important for what we're doing. Here's the algorithm though, because I want you to make sure that you cover all the different options. So here's how I recommend it. For your first column, your statement P, write down 4 trues and then 4 falses. 4 trues, 4 falses. We have three variables. We have three simple statements, yes. If you have two simple statements, you only have the for, and then you won't have any that have one simple statement. That's the negation, and that's no fun. All right, next thing we're going to do, instead of going 4 and 4, the next column, I'm going to go 2 truths, 2 falses, 2 truths, 2 falses. I'm going to alternate it every 2. So 2 truths, 2 falses, 2 truths, 2 falses. So just following a pattern here. So I want to see if you follow the pattern. We did 4 and then 4, and then we did 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. What do you think the last column is going to be? Every other, right? True, false, true, false. We went from 4 down to 2. We're going to divide it in half again. We're going to go 1. So I'm just going to go true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. And that will always get you all 8 different possibilities of trues and falses for your simple statements. Okay, so 4 and then 4, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Now don't worry though. Once you've got that down, the actually joining things together does not change at all from what we talked about in our three truth table facts. So with this, I'm going to start with the parentheses and I'm going to work my way out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the P and Q in parentheses. And just like you've already told me a dozen times, you're going to tell me a dozen plus 1. When you have an and statement, when you have a conjunction, when is that going to be true? When they're both true. Hey, that does not change. Doesn't matter how many simple statements you have. The basic facts don't change. So this is an and statement, and so it's true when both are true. So I'm going to just go down the line of P and Q, and I've got true, and then true and true is going to be true. True and false, that's false because they both have to be true. True and false is false. False and true is false. False and true is false. And then the last 2 are false and false, so they're both false. One more column. We're almost done with this example. I'll give you a nice light one first as well. So I'm going to take that P and Q that was in parentheses, and now I'm going to or are, a disjunction outside. So I'm taking the P and Q column, I'm going to put an asterisk there. I'm going to take the the R column, and I'm going to combine them with an or statement. So an or statement. Hey, this is the part that does not change. The disjunction. When is the disjunction true? When one of them is true. Doesn't matter which one. Okay, so I'm going to go down the 2 asterisk columns here. And so I've got true or true. Well, at least one of them is true. There you go. False or true. That's going to be true. True or false. That's going to be true. False or false. That's bad. True or false. False or false. True or false. False or false. So we end up with 5 trues and 3 falses. That's the order that they come in, and that is my answer to the truth table. So the new thing here is that I have 8 different combinations, but the rest of it is the same. The truth table facts will not change once you remember them. Please try this one. I want you to do squiggly P and Q and R. Do a truth table for that, please. All right, I'm gonna start. If you're still working, keep working. I'm not trying to rush you. Just trying to split the middle here. So my simple statements P, Q, and R. So as I mentioned, my P, I'm going to make 4 trues and 4 falses. My Q, I'm going to do 2 and then 2. And then, pardon me, my R, I'm going to go every other. So help me along. I need a column for what first? Yeah, you can do one of 2 things. I don't know which one you did. I'm going to do squiggly P first. It doesn't matter. Or maybe you started in the parentheses and did Q and R first. Either one. Okay, we're just going to, if you did the Q and R first, our columns will be the same. They're just going to be reversed. So squiggly P, instead of 4 trues, 4 falses, wherever you did squiggly P, I'm going to have 4 falses and then 4 trues. The Q and R, I know if I ask the question, I'm not gonna this time, how does the disjunction work? When is the conjunction true? The conjunction is true and both are true. So I'm gonna go down to Q, the R, true and true, good. True and false, it's false. False and true, false, false and false. True and true is true. And then the last 3 all have a false in them. So all 3 are going to be false. So whatever order you did those 2 things in, we should be staring at the same column. And then the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my squiggly P column, I'm going to take the Q and R column, and I'm going to connect them with an and statement. Bless you. So this column right here, the squiggly P, the Q and car is on my mind, Q and R, and I'm going to combine them with the conjunction again, and the conjunction is true or both are true. So let's try this out. False and true, false, false and false, that's false, false and false, that's false, false and false, that's a lot of falses, true and true, that's good. And then the last 3 all have a false as part of the combination, so there we go. You okay with that? I know this gets complicated. The best thing I can tell you is use lined paper, or make sure you're writing the most common mistake on the test. Honestly, in the past, students have gotten this very well. Okay, the biggest mistake students make is kind of writing messy and then not being able to see what row you're in, and then you end up combining the wrong things. Okay, so just be careful of that. Let's see. Well, let's do this. Let's do one more, and then I've got one more little thing from this. And then if you can understand doing truth tables with 3, then all you need is the other 2 truth table facts, and you are good to go. So we'll see if we can get to that point. And then when we come back on Thursday, we'll do some more examples from section 3.3, just to make sure we're all feeling pretty good about this process. So let's try this. Slightly more complicated, but not super complicated. Let's do a truth table for squiggly P or Q or squiggly R. Okay, so there's not a whole lot you can do with conjunctions and disjunctions and negations. Things will get a little more interesting when we have conditional and biconditional. so I'm going to get started working. If you're working, I'm going to start working in the parentheses. I'm going to work with the squiggly P or Q. If you did squiggly R first, that is fantastic. Okay, that column can be anywhere in here. But before I do the squiggly P or Q, I need the squiggly P column. So I'm going to do that first. So squiggly P is just the opposite of this. So 4 falses and then 4 trues. Oops, I did exactly what I told you guys to be careful of. There we go, better. So now I'm going to take the squiggly P column right here and the Q column, and I'm going to combine them together with the disjunction. So my typical question that I'm going to answer for myself is, when is the disjunction true? And that's when either one of them is true. Okay, so one or the other has to be true in order for the disjunction to be true. So here we go, true or false, true, true or false, true, false or false, false or false, true or true, true or true, false or true, and false or true. Erase these asterisks because we're going to need that again. And then squiggly R, you probably already did this. Maybe it was the first thing you did. I'm just going to take the R and I'm going to change the order. So false, true, false, true, false, true, false, true. And last but not least, I've got this on one column, I've got this on the other, and I'm going to connect it together with a disjunction, with an OR. So it's this column right here and this column right here with my OR statement. So when is the OR true? When either one of them is true. So true or false, true or true, false or false, false or true, true or false, true or true, true or false, and true or true. So our last column there should be 2 trues, a false, and then the final 5 are trues. Questions, comments, concerns, conundrums? Yes.
How did you get
Squiggly P or Q. So I got the squiggly P column. Did you get the squiggly P column? 4 falses, 4 trues? Perfect. So then or Q. So here's my Q. Let me just do a check mark so you can see. And I combine them together with the OR statement. OR is true when either one is true. So let me go through and make sure I did that right. So that is going to be true or false. So if it's true, because this one's true. True or false, this one's true. So true. False or false, neither one. So false or false, so false. Both are true this time, so true. Both are true this time. Did I do it again? Did it again. True, true, false, false, true, true. Okay, both of those have both trues, and then false or true right here is true, false or true right here is true. Okay, so as long as one, when you're doing a disjunction, as long as one of the 2 is true, you're good to go. All right, the last thing that you're going to see before we sneak into section 3.3, and I'll give you your truth table facts for that. Okay, the last thing that you're going to see is something like this. So you're going to determine the truth value of the statement. But this time, instead of asking you to do a whole truth table, because sometimes that's not what we need, I'm going to give you the parameters. Given that, let's say P is true, Q is false, and R is false. So now instead of finding the whole truth table, I'm going to do this for the particular statement. And the statement that I'm going to pick to do this for is squiggly P, or in parentheses, squiggly Q, a terrible squiggly, and R. Now you could figure out the answer to this doing a truth table. You're just doing 8 times more work than you need to do. Okay, you could do the truth table and then pick out the row that represents P is true and Q is false and R is false. No need to do that. This is now becomes just a plug and chug problem. Okay, so asked this way, when I ask for the truth value and I give you the conditions, I am now just going to, like arithmetic, when you had numbers that you plugged in for your X's and your Y's and added and subtracted, I'm going to plug in these values in for the different statements. So P is true, Q is false, R is false. So all I'm going to do this first time around is I'm just going to plug in those exact values where I see a P, a Q, and R. So I have a squiggly, and instead of P, I'm gonna write true. And if you can, for this first one, I'm just substituting in, but if you know that squiggly true is false, then good. Okay, or, and then squiggly Q is gonna be squiggly F, and R is F. Everybody see what I've done on this particular problem? This is a little easier because there's not as much busy work as there was on the previous one.
How did you do that?
Okay, I've told you, I gave you this. Okay, this is given to you. Okay, P is a true statement, Q is a false statement, R is a false statement. So what I did then is I took this T and I put it in for the P right there. So instead of having squiggly P, I'm going to squiggly a true statement. Then I took the Q as false and I put the Q, the F right there instead of the Q. So now these are not variables, now these are values. Okay, so Q is now F, so squiggly F, and then R is also F, so I'm going to put an F right there where I see the R. Better? Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay, now let's figure out the value. What is squiggly true? What does that become? Okay, the opposite of true is false, right? Here, squiggly F, squiggly false is true. I'm going to do the parentheses first. So I've got F or true and false. This is a true conjunction false. What do you get when you have a true and a false statement? Yeah, because remember, when is the conjunction true? When is your and statement true? Only when both are true. And so then finally, I have a false with a disjunction with an or statement false. So that is equal to false. The net result of that statement is that it's false. So here's your last problem. Unless there's a question, I love questions. I'm going to give you, we're going to do the same statement. It's not going to, there's not really much I can do. I'm just going to change the initial conditions. So I would like you to determine what's the truth value of this statement right here. If we start off with, let's say P is true, Q is false, and R is true. Okay, what is this going to be under those initial conditions? So again, I am defining what the value of the variables are, and you're plugging and chugging. I'm going to plug and chug. So squiggly P. P is a true statement, so that's squiggly true. And then Q is a false statement, so squiggly false. And R this time is true, so I'm going to have a true right there. So just now going through, I'm going to do the negations first. When I negate a true statement, I get A. When I negate a false statement, I get. So now I have false, I have a disjunction. Inside the parentheses, I have true and true. What's the net result of that right there? Okay, conjunction is true when both statements are true. That's right. And now I have a false or a true statement. False or true, that equals what? The disjunction is true when either one of them is true. So this is the disjunction. This is the conjunction. And that's the difference. That's the end of section 3.2.